And hello good people of the internet, it is I, Tommy Kelly, and this is Adventures in Woo-Woo. And in this episode I want to talk a bit more about this new comic that I'm going to be doing. So as I've said in a couple of videos before, particularly the one I talked about what my plan was for the year, my next big project is going to be a comic. And I've been working steadily behind the scenes on that, and it's really taken shape, and I'm very happy with how it's going. And I'm very excited to show you all and let it come out and all that. But I mean, there's so much work that has to be done before you can really tell anyone about it or show anything. So I'm definitely in the kind of pre-production stage where while I'm also developing the story, which is like, I don't know, I'd say 70% there. And I only really want to go to 85% at most because I want to allow it to have its own kind of life and stuff, and I don't want to delineate it or keep it in a box too much and, you know, kind of force it into something it mightn't. No, I want to let it blossom into something else. So I'm very close to that. So then I just have most of the characters. I definitely have the setting and many of those different type of things. I'm also then working on the style around it and what way I want it to be. And I've kind of settled on a black and white and grey kind of style. Similar kind of, but don't go with it. Let me finish before you make a judgment. It's similar in style to some of the Japanese comics. Now, not the manga, big eyes, cutie stuff, although I do have a fairly cartoony style anyway. It's not quite that. It's not a manga type comic, but in that kind of black and white, possible screen tones, maybe. Although I have to work out exactly like that, because one of the issues is that I want to release it episodically through Patreon or online. Certainly it'll be on Patreon anyway. Again, another thing I have to work out. And I hope before it eventually collects as a printed book or something like that. And the problem with screen tones, which are those kind of dot stuff that you see in comics or in, like in an old photo from a newspaper where you can see it's just all dots and the grayscale is done in kind of a amount of dots, the density of dots and stuff like that. So that's called screen tone, and you see it a lot in comics. That looks great on printed page, and it allows you to do things very crisp and very clear in a kind of very strict monotone or monochromatic setting. The problem is when you put that on a computer screen, it looks terrible because you get this thing called a moire pattern, which is if you ever see like a newscaster who's wearing a particular type of slick, say like a striped suit, and it does this wavy thing. That's a moire pattern. I think I'm pronouncing that right. Anyway, only a thing I've ever read about. I've never heard anyone else mention or say it out loud. So that's the thing, that so while it might look good in the printed thing, it's going to spend an awful lot of its time on the screen and on tablets and stuff like that, and I don't want it to look horrible. And I also don't want to do two versions because, I have to limit the amount of work to do because I have the limited amount of time to do it all in. So it might be a grayscale in a different way, and with digital printing and stuff, using screen tone is more kind of like, it's a stylistic choice now rather than a necessity the way it used to be because of the way printing presses worked. But that all has to be worked out. So it's also going and factor in the grey and black and white kind of thing is that I'm definitely thinking the route of self-publish as I do most of my stuff other than my Brazilian publishing house that takes care of all the 47 stuff, which is wonderful and it's great. But I have to kind of not rely on someone deciding that they're going to publish this or whatever. And I know from all the other comics that I've done that self-publishing is definitely the one true way to know that you're going to get something published. And if I am self-publishing, colour is just, it's far too expensive. As you can tell from the price of the Grimoire of the 47s, which has all those colour images, that's just so expensive to print. Unless you're, making 200,000 of them and getting it literally sent over on the slow boat from China. But so I'm not in a position to do 200,000, and I will probably be doing something through some form of the Amazon, Kindle Direct thing where you do a self-publishing thing. May that be from within Amazon itself, which is the way I've everything done now, or through a third party, which maybe has some more bells and whistles and stuff. And if I can find one that does comics, more the better. That's just kind of, I've had a periphery kind of look into that, nothing too extensive at all. So the black and white then will lead to the cost factor that it'll be easy, cheaper for people to buy, and therefore, it'll be open to more people to hopefully read, which is the idea. I don't want to limit the fact that I do this lovely, gorgeous book that's, $80 that no one will buy just because it's $80, and I'd rather people read it and look at it and stuff like that. And it's like all this thing of you do your art for yourself. Very true. I am the most selfish artist when it comes to these things. I'm very selfish creative. But the end thing, when it's done, you would like other people to, you know, read it, tell you you're awesome, you know, say, oh, that's a great job. All of those things. And, you know, you're limiting that kind of thing. And also, the story, I think, would like to be heard and, you know, told to other people or whatever. Who am I to limit it by my kind of fiscal restrictions at this point? So that's really exciting, and I've got back into drawing, and I've got a new pen display tablet thing, which I will put some footage on the video now, which doesn't help people who are listening to this in audio. And I love this. This is like, oh, it's so nice. Up until now, I've been using a Wacom and Chuso Pro, which I'm definitely not pronouncing right. It's kind of medium size, and I had a Bamboo before that, which was small. And that's basically just a tablet where you draw, and you know, your stuff comes up on the screen. But there's kind of a disconnect between the tablet and the screen in that you're drawing on like essentially a slate that then, you know, is a glorified mouse that moves a cursor on the screen. Whereas with this one, you're drawing directly on the screen, and it's a completely different experience. I had used them before a number of years ago, the Cintiq, the Wacom version of it, and it was probably about a decade ago at this stage, when I was doing some game design or work for games in a company up in Dublin. And the top artist guy who's there, the lead artist, I suppose, he had one, and you know, I didn't gel with it. I have to admit, I found it uncomfortable, and I think a lot of that was because he had it up straight the way proper artists do, and you know, you have your elbow running free and you're flowing, and you know, the universe is flowing through you. And I'm not that type of artist at all. I'm a bit more heavy-handed, and I like things to be a bit more flat. So it's just on a slight tilt, I have mine, and it changes everything. What I have noticed though is my grip has loosened naturally from just doing that, and I don't know if it's just because I'm afraid of leaning on the actual, you know, the tablet, which I don't think it is, but it's just the response is there. You're getting an immediate. As I say, there's no disconnect between what you're drawing and the screen, and so that I have more flowy. And there's a tilt function on this pen, which there was on my Wacom, whatever, but I never really used, where you can turn it on its side, and you know. Excuse my books falling off the shelf. Like when a pencil, you can turn it on on its side, and it, you know, has that kind of softer but longer, wider pencil thing. You can do that with this, which is wonderful. So there's all this kind of stuff. So I've been doing loads of life drawing. I've been doing loads of kind of tutorials. I signed up for a life drawing class, and I'm really enjoying drawing again. As I've been talking about that, I was really getting into, you know, missing the whole thing of being an artist, and it's so great to be back drawing and doing stuff. And it's something I found with guitar playing as well years ago, that when you take a break and then you come back, you're immediately shit because you haven't done anything in a while. But you get back to where you were very quick. And then there seems to be space where you can improve very quickly where you wouldn't have done it had you just continued the whole way along. And I'm not quite sure what that is. It's kind of that thing we talk about with magic, where at the beginning you seem to have more successes and then it kind of wanes a bit. There's some sort of correlation between that. As if you open up a gap by having a gap, or your life experience has changed your brain chemistry in such a way that you can now allow new ideas or new techniques in. I'm not quite sure, but it's a definite thing that happened with me with guitar, and happens each time I kind of take a break from art. I always spend some period of time before I do a big thing like the Fort Servant or my comics or whatever, where I just indulge, for want of a better word, in the whole learning about art, and, you know, try to up my game and have a greater skill level. And each time, hopefully, and I think I improve. Whereas my life drawing is quite good now, which is one of my kind of failings up to now. Even though I had a kind of cartoony kind of style, there was elements of the actual anatomy and physiology of the human being that I kind of covered up by having this kind of quirky cartoony style. But I have a much better appreciation of that now than I ever had, and it kind of just fits into my brain a bit more. I can see the shapes that I normally couldn't the last time I went through this kind of upping my game skill type thing. So I'm hoping to then kind of take all of that, what I've learned, and put it then into this kind of more cartoony kind of style. And it's a style, I suppose, of it. If you ever came across my Road Crew for Sale comic, and I think I have a number of them that I might put them up for sale. They're slightly the badly printed versions of them, so I had to reprint them. But I have all these kind of old ones, which aren't terrible. At the time I thought they were terrible, but they're I suppose I could sell them cheap. But it's a kind of this very grayscale, realistic backgrounds with kind of cartoony characters, and even a kind of a thing where certain characters were more cartoony than others, depending on what their character in the story was, which is a bit like this. This is why things are falling off my shelf, because I have some stuff on the shelves. This is Goodnight Pun Pun, which is a book by Inyo Asano, who's a Japanese guy, and I don't know what the legality is of showing pictures on YouTube, but I'll put up some if I can. But the idea with this, and it's wonderful, and you should check it out, really, I've been absolutely absorbed with manga at the moment. It's just about a guy growing up and his life at home, and his parents are splitting up, and a number of things. He's just going to high school. But his character design is just kind of weird, short little, I don't know, squiggle. And everyone else is drawn super realistically. The background are drawn super realistic, and his entire family's drawn like this. But at times of great stress or great emotion, it kind of, the artist draws it a bit more real, but in a kind of a distorted, kind of weird kind of thing, and it works so well. And it's like I've gone, that's kind of what I was trying to do years ago with Road Crew for Sale, which was a point in it where anytime, because it was a black and white comic, but anytime magic happened in it, because it was a hybrid sigil, it was one of my first hybrid sigils, anytime magic appeared in it, when Morrigan was in it, for instance, and when she would come in it, she would be in colour. So it was kind of messing with the same type of ideas that Inyo Asano was doing in Goodnight Pun Pun. Of course, the colour elements of Road Crew for Sale were very hard to keep up, because of, for 2 or 3 panels of colour, you would, of course, have to pay for a full colour printing of everything. Incidentally, the Carnal image is from that Road Crew for Sale, and she was in colour, originally on it in a black and white comic. If I remember, I'll put some of it here. Although maybe I won't, because of the nudity involved in the Carnal, but I'll work some way out of it. So extremely excited about it all, and out getting reference shots for the different locations that I have things and all that, and I feel a real kind of buzz about the whole thing. So my plan is to do kind of more art stuff on the channel as well, because we have the 2 podcasts going, and I'm still going to do magic stuff as well, but I want to incorporate more of the art stuff the way I used to back in the day. Maybe some live streaming of me drawing and going through my process and all of that type of stuff. So I don't know how that's going to work out with the audio people. I might just have to work out just not put that on the podcast, because I think it would be more frustrating than in any way helpful. Even if you double up and go, well, people have the choice, but it can be quite frustrating if you think you have a podcast to listen to and it's just music, background music to me drawing on a tablet. It's not really going to help anyone. But I'll see. If you have any kind of ideas around that, how you would like to see, what type of videos of the art type of stuff you'd like to see. I'm kind of like tutorials, of course, I could do tutorials, but there's so many great tutorials that I would quicker point you to a tutorial about how to do something than me go through it. But I'm open to any of these type of things, so let me know about that. So yeah, great stuff. I'm in a creative mode, and my brain, that for the most part is intensely introspective and looks at life and analyzes and pulls everything apart, is doing that only with a kind of fictional world. So it's been put into a better use than trying to pick apart my my innards, I suppose. So yeah, that's kind of the update. Comics are coming. Now, it's not today, it's not tomorrow. Definitely, I've been putting stuff up on Patreon, process stuff and all that, so there's plenty going on kind of over there, and that's where an awful lot of the behind the scenes stuff is going to be. But publicly, I will hopefully be able to show something very soon, and particularly one scene that I'm very excited that I think, this will be my sizzle, or my sizzle for the entire project. I'm really excited about it. So, I'll not ramble anymore. Good people of the internet, until our next adventure, be well.